So somebody I know has been doing lots of little things on a regular basis and is probably a positive deviant in his own right, actually, is Alex Hill. Come on down, Alex. Alex is from Peabody Housing. Anyone? I know there's lots of other people from the housing association sector. There's lots of change in that sector at the moment, that's fair to say.
Yeah.
And big mergers and acquisitions, and one of the things that Alex is working on is re-architecting two businesses to become one, and the challenge and problems that brings on a day-to-day basis and as a project. So, Alex, thank you very much for joining us.
So, firstly, apologies. I've not had time to prepare as well as Alex and what have you, so this might be a little bit disjointed. I wasn't expecting to be walking up and down the stage either, so I'm not mic'd up. So firstly, good morning, my name's Alex Hill. I'm the Enterprise Application Support Manager at Peabody. I run a team of 5 people that are tasked with looking after our housing management system, our asset management systems, and our finance applications. There we go. So some of you may not know who Peabody are, so there's a quick little slide just to give us a bit of a background. So we were founded over 150 years ago, and we're now the 6th largest housing association in the UK. We've got over 3,000 employees. Sorry, I was trying to scroll, and it's not, oh dear, never mind. That's not, oh, apologies. Oh, and I'm breaking this, aren't I? Oh well. So over the last 5 years, we've seen an awful lot of change within the organisation. We've gone from being made up of 2 housing associations to now we've gone through 5 different mergers in the last 5 years. I'm not going to go through all the different slides, but this just gives you a little timeline so that you can get an indication of what we've been doing. Modern housing associations are not just organisations that rent homes to people. I didn't have a very good impression of or understanding of what housing associations did until I joined. But as well as managing 55,000 domestic properties, we also have a commercial property portfolio. We've got 8,000 customers in our care home organisation. We are building hundreds of new homes a year, and we provide a range of services, not just to the 110,000 residents that we've got, but also into the greater communities where we operate. So we do things like help people back into work. We're very strong in domestic abuse. We've got a domestic abuse team that goes out and helps teach other housing associations, not just in the UK, but organisations around the world, on how to identify and help with things like with domestic abuse. So our finance systems are really important to us, and we have to be able to cope with lots of change that's happened with the mergers. So the finance systems that we're currently using are SunSystems 6.1, with obviously Q&A 10 running over the top of it. We've got 340 users at the moment using IPOS. Due to one of our mergers, we've also recently taken on CSB, eRemit, and PA Bank Rec. So with the systems, we have data coming in and data going out. We also are using the Infor BI system for our budgeting and forecasting. And so one of the things that we do with that is we take obviously all the data from SunSystems and pass it into Infor BI on a daily basis. And one of the ways we've integrated IPOS into that is when we do process an invoice, we obviously scan the document into our SharePoint document management system, and we send a link to the document into SunSystems as an additional description field, and we can then pass that through into BI. So that means that anyone in BI can go and look at an invoice and click on a hyperlink that takes them to the document. Anyone using Q&A can go and drill from a hyperlink to the document. So that's meant that we can streamline a number of processes within our organisation. So I'm sure that the other people working in the housing sector will be aware of things like service charges, where you have to be able to demonstrate why you're charging someone something. So instead of having to go through a document management system to find a scanned copy of an invoice, our accountants can just look at transactions and click on a link and see what they need to do. So how did we get to where we are now? So don't worry, I'm not going to go through death by PowerPoint and go through all of these different sides, but basically we've been using SunSystems since the late 90s. So we've got a very long tradition of using the organisation. We were a fairly early adapter or adopter rather of a P2P system in about 2005. When I joined Peabody in 2010, we were using P2P for most of our revenue expenditure in most of our areas, but we weren't using it in all areas, so we'd had a resistance from our caretaking department. They found a P2P system complicated to use, and we also weren't using it for our capital spend. So we changed that in 2010. We went through a process with our provider at the time where we had to get quite a bit of consultancy involved to add capital projects into the P2P system. We had to have special scripts created for us to enable us to do budget checking at the levels that we wanted to do, and we rolled out to a third legal entity within the organisation. The following year, the same year, we also upgraded from SunSystems 426 to 433. And we also went from Vision 6 to Q&A 10. So we've been using the systems for years, but we found that we were starting to be limited by what we could do. So some of you that are used to 426 and Sun 4 will know that there is a little issue with where if you get too many transactions in an account, you can't open the account code. And we started to find that that was limiting us. So we introduced a new housing management system, which obviously produces rent files on all of our properties. We had to limit how we put that data into Sun. We had to do it at a summarised level because we weren't able to extract all the transactions at a detailed level if we put it into the system. So we started having to think about what we could do. So it was at that time that we became aware of advanced inquiry. And so I was at a user day like today with one of our senior finance managers, and there was an advanced inquiry demonstration. And so the finance manager saw the demonstration and said, well, this is really good. How can we go about having this system? I can do something with advanced inquiry that would take me 6 different Q&A reports to do the same thing, and it would take me an awful lot longer. And so advanced inquiry is really easy to roll out with SunSystems because of its inbuilt functionality and its integrity with SunSystems. And so that started our relationship with PA. In 2012, I started working on an options appraisal about how we could move our finance systems forward because, as I say, we were being limited by our systems, not being able to do everything that we wanted to do. You know, I've always thought that software should be there to enable you as a business to do what you need to do without expensive consultancy. Software is an enabler, it's not a restrictor. And that's where we were with Sun 4. We thought it was restricting us. So we were able to get approval to have a project to upgrade to SunSystems 6.1 to either upgrade or replace our P2P system and to put in a budgeting and forecasting system that worked with SunSystems in a very integrated way. We'd had a failed project to put in a system that had never worked with SunSystems before, and we had been using Q&A budget management, but it's not, it's great for what it does, but it's not a full budgeting and forecasting system. So we started that process and went through an extensive OG process, which took about 6 months. And we had a number of client demonstrations, rounds of tendering and what have you. And in the end, we went with a proposal from both Infor and PA, which was to do the SunSystems upgrade, to install IPOS in a single phase, and then to install Infor BI as a secondary phase. Now, the plan was to go live with that in January 2014. But unfortunately, as we were going through things, we found out that we were going to do a merger with another housing association called Galleons. Now, Galleons had around about 6,000 properties, predominantly based on Thamesmead, which is a town just on the edge of London and Kent. So having to do a merger with another housing association at the same time as trying to put in a new finance system sort of delayed us slightly. So we had to review our chart of account structure, go through recoding everything, working out how we were going to merge the housing management systems, how we were going to merge the finance applications. Now that delay actually only took us an additional 2 months to do. And we actually were able to go live with SunSystems and IPOS in April 2014. Now, there's no way we'd have been able to adapt and change lanes as quickly as we did without SunSystems and IPOS being as flexible as they are. Now, as I mentioned, we previously had 3 business units in our P2P system. When we went live with 6.1 and IPOS, we moved that up to 9 different business units. So you can see the incremental change that we had there. Now, as I say, without the ease of which the applications work, we couldn't change in that way. Ion BI went live in January 2015, and we thought we'd have a nice quiet time for a while. One of my colleagues is sat up here, and he always says, when are things going to quieten down? We thought we were having a quiet spell, and then in the January of 2015, we bought a maintenance company. So housing associations obviously got properties, they need people to repair them. So one of our contractors we liked, so we bought them. So we had to put that company into our systems. And obviously a building maintenance company is a very different beast to a housing association, so that needed different configuration. In April of 2015, we merged with an organisation called Trust Thamesmead, who provided client services on the Thamesmead estate, helping people back into work, welfare, helping people manage the budgets, that sort of thing. But again, that's another system that we've had to merge to. They were using Sage. Gallions had been using open accounts, so we had to merge the data into there. From there, they'd never used a P2P system, so we had to go through the cultural change of getting people to work with purchase-to-pay systems. Now, as we were going through these, it's very easy for senior leaders and finance teams to understand the benefit of a P2P system, the improved controls that you have. But when you're introducing it to people that are not used to doing it, you have the cultural change, which is something that's been mentioned previously. It's not easy trying to say to people, look, you need to go through this process because it helps the business, rather than just ringing up a supplier and saying, can you do this for me? And so that's been one of the challenges that we've had as we've gone through this. Things continued. So in July, we added Peabody Land as another entity into our system. Both Trust Thamesmead and Gallions had a 50% share each of an organisation called Tilford Land. So by merging with Gallions and with Trust Thamesmead, we owned Tilford, which is again another company that we've then got to bring into the portfolio. They used a finance system called DEMA. They didn't have a P2P system, so again we had to bring those guys on board, which we did in November. So again, we ended the year, and I said, oh, good, we're slowing down. I know where we are, we've got time to embed. And then in 2006, we decided that we were going to write our own CRM system for doing repairs. So traditionally with a housing management type organisation, you'll have customers will ring you up and say, my boiler's broken, can you get someone to come and fix it? I'm sure that the guys in the housing sector here will have that going through their housing management system, and you'll have to have some sort of interaction with your contractors. So we decided that as an organisation we'd build our own CRM system based on Microsoft Dynamics, so that we could automate the processes a lot more. So basically we just have a nice seamless interaction with our suppliers to improve the turnaround times to our customers. So this was all being explained to us, and I said, well, what are you doing with the finance transactions? What we do at the moment is every time someone creates a repair, that's a commitment. Every time you complete a repair, that's an accrual. And then you've got an invoice process. How are you doing that with your CRM system? Hadn't thought of that. So the obvious solution to me was to talk to PA and say, can we integrate our CRM system to IPOS? Obviously, it's got the XML functionality. And so we were able to get Oliver to come and talk to us, and we went through those bits and pieces, and we decided that was going to be what we would do. Rather than try and make CRM be a finance application, we talked to our existing finance systems. So we were progressing with that, and then that was put on hold because it was decided we were going to merge with another housing association of equal size called Family Mosaic. So I just put this slide in just to give you an idea of the how important our P2P systems become over the years. So you've got down from 2005 up to fairly recently, and yes, there's peaks and troughs as you change how you're doing things, but you can see that upward trend with the volume of transactions going through the P2P system. So system automation is becoming more important. Version 1, V1's been mentioned. We've already got that installed, but we're not using it because of some of the issues that have been mentioned around teaching the system how to recognise invoices. So we'll be looking to improve upon that, because as we get bigger and bigger and bigger, invoice automation is something that we've really got to focus on. So in March, although the official merger didn't happen until July, in March I was asked to go and see the IT director, which is never a nice experience. So I was a bit surprised because my manager walked across to the office with me, and I was like, okay. So I got sat down in front of my boss, his boss, the IT director, and a couple of other members of the leadership team, and they said, Alex, how are you going to merge Family Mosaic systems and Peabody systems together? So fortunately, Family Mosaic were using SunSystems 541. So at least we have some commonality of conversations, although they still call Q&A Vision. And I'm trying to say, what? No, it's Q&A. Losing battle on that front. But at least there's some commonality of understanding of the systems. However, they use Sun in a very, very different way to us. So part of the things that we had to do is look at how we can bring those things together, bring both systems together. So on the spot, come up with a plan. One of the first questions that was asked is, can SunSystems cope with a new organisation? We are doubling in size from what we were. Can it cope? Also, can you cope with going to 4 times bigger than we were at that stage? So there's a lot of mergers and harmonisation and so on going on in the housing sector, and this will not be our last merger. So we're getting asked to build systems that can cope with not just 25,000 properties or 50,000 properties, but 100,000 properties. Now, in our housing management system, that has become an issue for us. So our last financial year end, the period end in our housing management system took 23 hours to run. So obviously doubling the number of properties in that isn't appealing. So can Sun cope with where we are? So when I joined in 2010, we were processing around about 1.2 million transactions a year in the system. Doing a quick calculation of where we are now and where I thought family were, we'd be doing around about 8 million transactions a year in the new organisation, which is obviously a big increase. But I knew from keeping tabs on what was going on with SunSystems 6.2 and 6.3 that there are people using SunSystems doing 6 to 8 million transactions a day. So 8 million a year, not a problem. So when I'm being asked, do we need to upgrade to something like SAP to handle our future growth processes? No, we don't. SunSystems can cope with the way that we're growing. What about IPOS? Well, as I say, we've got about 350 users. My understanding is that the largest IPOS users are in the 4,000 range. So again, plenty of scale to enable us to continue with what we're doing. So on the spot, they asked me to come up with a plan, which I did. A couple of weeks later, I heard back that that plan had been taken and tweaked and passed up to the board level, and that it had been approved, and that we were going to go live with a new combined finance system April 2018. Oh, by the way, Alex, that's Easter weekend. You've got a 4-day weekend to get it done. Good luck. Thank you very much, boss. So what have we been doing? We've been looking at how we use the system. We've been creating a new chart of account structure for a new organisation. So we're taking the opportunity to look at what analysis dimensions we currently have and remove some that we don't need, create new ones that we do need. We'd taken the opportunity when we went from 433 to 61 to get rid of 3 different analysis dimensions, so we had some experience of doing that. But the cultural change of trying to challenge people and say, why are you recording your financial data that way rather than this way? How do you do that type of reporting? These are industry standard reporting bits. How do you do it? How are you doing it? Going through those processes is something that's taken a lot longer than I personally expected. So we're still going through that process. So we've got the new accounting structure being worked out at the moment. We're going to take the opportunity to implement SunSystems 6.3 for some big changes that we're going to use with things like the enhanced analysis dimensions. So we're very excited about how we can use those fields for what we do. Family Mosaic had CSB and Collect and Bank Rec. Those are things that people had been thinking about purchasing. So automatically we've now got those within the group. And then we're looking at how we roll IPOS out across the larger piece. So that's what we're doing as far as integration, with a plan to go live in April 2018. But that's not where we're looking to finish. So we've heard a little bit about AI and things like that. So beyond April, we're looking at what can we do with the Infor suite. What can we do about journal approvals? Can we automate those? We've heard a little bit about mobile solutions. Can we get journal approval on mobile devices? Can we move to mobile approvals for IPOS? So within the care and support group that's come across from Old FM, there are regional managers travelling between care homes. You don't want to be delaying the approval process of transactions because somebody's in the car or not got access to a desk. What else can we do? We're going to be looking at our budgeting and forecasting system. So Family Mosaic used SAP's BPC system, whereas we're using Infor BI. So we need to review that, look at what we're going to use going forward. Neither organisation thinks they're properly utilising these tools. They're expensive tools if you don't use them properly. Will we go with Infor DEPM? So we've got some meetings coming up in December about that. As I say, we're going to continue to grow as an organisation. We're on target to build 2,500 new homes a year by 2021. So not only are we going to increase organically, I'm being told to be aware that will be further mergers. My instructions are to be able to build systems that can onboard new organisations in 3 to 4 months. So that's being able to take data, bring it into the system, be able to roll out P2P and sales across different organisations. We're going to look at how Peabody can make use of new applications. So we've heard a bit about the cloud and about AI. So we're going to look at what we can do with some of those things. Personally, I'm very interested in the work that XM Pro's been doing around the Internet of Things. One of our key drivers is customer satisfaction. So we look at that. So someone's boiler breaks, how quickly can we get their boiler fixed? Well, why are we waiting for the boiler to be broken? Why can't we use smart appliances that tell us when something's going to break and repair it before it goes wrong? How much happier are our customers going to be with that? Looking at how we interact with our customer base. So we're going to have to write new customer client platforms to engage so people can see their rent statements, can do all sorts of bits and pieces, improve the way that they report issues. We have to monitor things like Twitter and things like that. So some of you might remember the London riots from a few years ago. That got us into the press, unfortunately, because it was incorrectly reported that one of the riots was happening on our estate. It wasn't. It was in the road next to one of our estates. But obviously, it was getting picked up and reported with 24-hour news cycles, and so our name's being put across in a negative way. So being able to pick up on social media trends that affect us, how can we use machine learning to look at people that are going to struggle to pay us on time. So you have inbuilt knowledge within your organisation. So one of my colleagues will tell us that our rent arrears will go up when the World Cup's happening, because her experience in the organisation says that every World Cup, people will spend money buying drink and barbecues and what have you to watch the football instead of paying their rent. Well, that's the sort of thing that we can predict, and that's where machine learning can come in. So hopefully I've not taken up too much of your time and not kept you away from from the drinks break, but has anybody got any questions that they'd like to ask? No? Good, fantastic.
Yeah,
Oh, go on.
I've always got a question. How has your team scaled over that period of time where the business itself has scaled up and that curve keeps going? What about your team?
So, this is good question. My team has not scaled at all. And one of the reasons it hasn't scaled is because of the systems that we're using. So when I joined in 2010, it was a team of 4 people. It's now a team of 5 people, well, 6 people, but that's because we've added new systems like the housing management system in. So when I joined, it was purely a finance systems team looking after SunSystems and the P2P and Q&A. We now look after 15 different applications with 6 people. Now, we couldn't have done that with the change in the scale of business if it wasn't for the simplicity of the systems. So one of the things that Alex mentioned earlier on was about apprentices. We took on an apprentice a year ago, and the last business unit that we added into IPOS, I got an 18-year-old to do it. That's how easy it is. And so the bits about the knowledge and generating, so we took that apprentice on, which was one of the few apprentices that Peabody has ever taken on. We do the first year with them, but they never kept within the business. We've created a new role for him because he's so fantastic. He's intuitive. He knows what he's doing. You can't ask him where you're going to be in 5 years because to an 18, 19-year-old, 5 years is too big a timescale. No. So we put him on a fixed-term contract for a year so that it helps us and helps him and he can learn and go from there. So from a systems point of view, we have increased the number of users, increased the number of applications, and added about 1 person to the team. Now, going forward, we're just in a restructure at the moment. I'm expecting that team to have 3 people added to it because we're going to be taking on the support of the Family Mosaic housing management system and their other applications. But a team of 8 will be managing, like I say, about 20 applications, which we could not have done if it wasn't for the ease of use of some of these. Anybody else?
Any other questions for Alex? No?
Drink time.
Well, thank you very much.
Mate,
we've got a little gift from you. Thank you very much.